Life is messy and unpredictable.
Being able to find joy in the weeds of life is so important. I'm Beth.
And I'm Kim, and we are so glad you've joined us as we figure out how to hold joy in one hand and struggle in the other.
Welcome to Joy in the Weeds.
And here we are. Welcome
Hello.
to Joy in the Weeds.
How are you,
Beth?
Kim?
Should we just we decided that we were just gonna start recording and see what happened and see where this took us. How's
There
the
you
how's the
go.
unpacking? Did you get things organized?
No.
No.
We had company here for the first time this weekend,
Oh.
and that was wonderful to have people. You know, there's nothing quite like making a house feel like a home than having people come and be here. So we loved that. But no, there's still so many things. Ugh. I at least closed the doors behind me so that you don't have to look at the unorderly closet.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah.
It's a bonus. I remember one time Tim and I moved, I can't remember where it was. In 3 days I had the house organized. But that's all I did.
It's almost all I've been doing, and I'm almost a month in. I just don't understand. It should not take this long.
Is it overwhelming to you? Does it just feel bigger than bite-sized pieces?
I mean, it is. But I've kept going. This house is particularly challenging to actually get organized because there's lots of pieces like closets that don't have anything in them. And so I'm needing my husband to help with some of those projects, and he hasn't been able to. And then because his work is crazy right now. So anyway, so that's part of it, but that's not all of it. It's just, it's just taking time. But I'm getting there. Last week became all about just trying to get ready for company. And
well, yeah, and that's going to take your time away from organizing your house for sure.
Yeah, because in some ways you have to not in some ways, you have to completely stop the process.
Right.
So that you can,
be ready for your people.
Push things aside so that people can because
Exactly.
organizing is a really messy process until it's done.
It certainly is. And then when you get to those last things that you're just like, I have no idea where I'm going to put this. That is the worst.
Excuse me. I had stuff in my kitchen that I didn't know what to do with. I didn't know where have any place to put it, and it was just sitting around. Well, now all that stuff had to where you can't walk, so it's right somewhere. So anyway, things like that. So then now I have more people coming this next weekend, and then more people the next weekend.
You exhaust me.
So I'm trying right now. Well, today is work. I'm working. I've got tons of work to get done. And so I've been up early doing emails and trying to get things done. And we're doing this. And anyway, but then I am trying to figure out, how do I move forward every day, do something towards this process while still being, getting ready for company. So.
Well, good luck with that.
So how are you doing? Let's not talk about Beth and her moving woes again.
I am very weary. The time changed, which is ridiculous. I have never had an issue with the time change ever. Like when people get on Facebook and they're complaining and drink more coffee and this is terrible and why don't we do something different? It's like, please, okay, we've been doing this for millennia. Go with it. Be adaptable. Your body will adjust. Well, this year, I don't know what it is, but my poor body is like not happy. It's just, I don't know. And it's an extra hour, which doesn't make any sense. But I'm weary. And last week, I had an emergency trip to Orlando. My mother was in the hospital, and I was literally praying all the way down, Lord Jesus, please keep her alive till I get there. She was very, very, very sick. She got Legionnaire's disease, which is a rare form of pneumonia.
Mm.
And thankfully, they got her on antibiotics right away, and she left after she was in the hospital for 3 days. But,
Wow.
yeah, I drove my sister told me about it Halloween night, and then I was like, "This just doesn't feel right, I need to be down there," so I woke up the next morning, I canceled all my clients, and I just drove down there, came back Friday.
Mm.
So, yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
I'm
But she's
so
good now. I
sorry.
talked to her yesterday,
Good.
and she's still, she's still a little weary, like tired. Like if she
Mhm.
can't do,
Mhm.
she can't do her normal thing. She did go ziplining like before she got sick.
Oh, before she got sick.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, she started feeling yicky on Friday, but Friday afternoon she went ziplining. So
Mm.
that same Friday that she got sick, she went ziplining. She's 77. Okay.
Wow.
And then she was in the hospital Monday night. So, probably should have been in the hospital sooner than that. Probably should have gone at least Sunday morning, Saturday night. She probably should have gone, but she just thought she
Mm.
wasn't feeling good.
Mm.
Anyway, so yeah, I talked to her yesterday, and while she still gets a little tired. I can still hear the weakness a little bit.
Mm.
She's bright, she's cheery, her eyes are sparkling.
Oh,
Um,
that's so good.
she's eating well. So, yeah, she's on the mend. So I'm glad, and she has good people around her. Her neighbor, um, is my age, and absolutely adores my mother, and they
Mm.
take walks every day, and, she's just hanging out, helping my mom get better, so I really appreciate her being there. So, there.
That's great.
Yeah. So, that makes me weary and tired. It's been it was quite the I mean, I don't do well on 6 hours of sleep night after night after night after night, and then came home, and then it was Sabbath,
And then
and
time change.
yeah, and then time change, which should have helped me, but for some reason, it's not helping
It's
me.
not.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I was thinking that we would talk about Thanksgiving because this should be
This is
dropping,
the
I believe,
this is the
Thanksgiving
season.
the day after Thanksgiving, something like that,
Is it?
or the week before.
I don't have a clue. I don't know when the last one was dropped.
I think it's gonna be the week
Oh,
before.
okay. Well, there you go. So that would be
So
it's alright. The Friday before yeah, that's
so
Cameron's
you
birthday. That's the 18th.
so you're Canadian.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we've talked about this before, but do you celebrate Thanksgiving both times
No,
or just
not
Canadian one?
not as a family, we haven't. Um, and a lot of times I didn't do either, just because Canadian Thanksgiving would come around, and I'm like, "Oh, man, it's Canadian Thanksgiving," and I forgot again because it just, like, pops up. But this last year we did Canadian Thanksgiving, this year we did Canadian Thanksgiving, kids came over. We just enjoy the day off on American Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Some in the past, we've gone to people's houses or we've done something at church,
Mm.
but we just enjoy the day off. We don't watch football either.
This is gonna be a really boring episode.
But you go all out on Thanksgiving.
I do love Thanksgiving. I love
Yeah.
everything about it. Um, I love football. I love
Ugh,
family.
sorry. I don't like
I love food. I love copious amounts of food, like lots and lots and lots of food. Nothing, I just and being around family. So this year is going to be great
Mhm.
and very different in that we are all going to. Well, I'm going to Chris and I to our son and daughter-in-law's house,
Oh, wow.
and she's having all of her family there, and
Wow.
so but, that's like a huge transition,
That's a
uh,
big thing. Yeah.
going from being the hostess, the parent, so to speak,
Mhm, mhm,
to going to your children's.
mhm.
Mhm.
Do you get to cook something? Do you get to bring something?
Oh, yeah, I'm cooking food. She called us. She's very organized and has it all planned and called and, has or texted and asked what I would be willing to bring, etcetera. So, anyway, she's got her menu down and all that. So,
Wow.
it's fun, but, I was just thinking though, how just how different that is, and,
Mhm.
in some ways, maybe this is more the direction where this whole conversation goes, but the whole idea, like, this sort of switching roles
Mhm.
is really interesting,
Mhm.
and, being not just with Thanksgiving, but just in general. I mean, I'm just thinking of you just jumping and driving all the way down to Florida to see your mom when she got sick.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a huge yeah, she got mad at me. She's like, "I didn't want you to come." First thing I said was, "What you want is irrelevant, and what would you have done?" So and she's like, "Okay." So she because
That's funny.
she would have done the same thing.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah. Man, I've got a rough throat this morning.
Yeah, we switch roles. I mean, anytime there's a um, we switch roles. Even our roles in the roles change a lot in life. Like when our kids are really little, we're like we have to be attached to them, especially if we're nursing, because they're completely 100% dependent on us. And then as they grow, we remove ourselves more and more and more and more so that they can become responsible, independent people themselves. And then so that removes us. And then my mother doesn't need to be cared for now, but then those roles switch where we can become
Right.
actually dependent on our children to care for us.
And
Like,
there's this lovely in between
oh,
where your kids don't need and you
right,
don't need.
right. Yes, right. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And there's something really cool about that, though, is the friendship that you develop with your kids.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of people find it really challenging. I'm really enjoying this time. And I'm super excited that we're going over there for Thanksgiving.
Mm.
Watching your kids, you know, do amazing things is amazing. Um, but boy, there is something about learning what you're having to figure out how you be in this adult space, and a
Mhm.
parent for these adult children. And not a
Mhm.
parent even, it's not even that, but just how
Mhm.
how the relationship is different. And in fact, I it's funny, I was in TJ Maxx, and you know how you go to TJ Maxx and they have these you have to go down this long aisle to wait in line, right, to get
Right,
to
yes.
like and they have a million things there, right, that you
Yes.
don't need,
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
and but then you find yourself needing them,
Of
and,
course.
um, although I get so irritated by their, shameless attempt at getting me to buy things that even if I do want it, I often will not, and so anyway, this particular day, I was going through and I saw they had the most beautiful paper plates, paper napkins, for Thanksgiving that I've ever seen. I hate paper things. First of all, I
Mhm.
just love using real everything, and that's my go-to. However, sometimes when you're having enough people, like, you just need to. And
Mhm.
but I am not a fan of all things Thanksgiving because they just I don't know.
Look corny.
They just look corny. That thank you. And but these were absolutely beautiful. I mean, I
Mm.
just thought they were really something special. And then I thought, "But Beth, you're not doing Thanksgiving, so you don't need them." And then I thought, "Well, maybe Becca would like them." But I can't get them for Becca. I don't wanna do that because, I don't wanna be that mother-in-law.
Mhm.
It's always giving you things that you didn't ask for and you really didn't like,
Mhm,
didn't
mhm,
want, and then you feel
mhm,
obligated or you just are annoyed, and
mhm.
so anyway, but they were so beautiful. So I was like, "Well, you know what? I could use them in the season."
That's what I was thinking. You could
Yeah.
use them tomorrow. It is November. I mean,
Yes.
you can use
So
them
I
whenever you
bought
want.
them,
Good for
but they
you.
came in like a pack of 30 because,
Oh my word.
because Thanksgiving is lots of people.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, soon after, Andrew and Becca came over for a meal here, and I said, "So, Becca, I found these really cute
Oh,
plates."
you're so funny.
I said, "But I don't wanna be that mother-in-law." So, anyway, but I showed them to her, and said she really liked them, so I gave them to her.
But did she say she really liked them to be kind? What
Maybe
did she
I became that
I guess
mother-in-law,
that's on
evidently.
her. I guess that's on her. I mean, she could
Evidently,
say, hope I would hope that your relationship would be, secure enough that if she didn't like them,
she would
she
say.
could say, yeah,
Well, I would hope so too, but,
yeah.
anyway, yeah, it was pretty funny.
I was never one of those parents that lamented when my kids grew up. Like, I don't lament, I enjoyed when they were babies.
Mhm.
I enjoyed when they were toddling. I enjoyed when they were in school. Like, and I actually enjoyed when they were teenagers. I mean, we had some rough times, not normal rough times.
Hmm.
It was a different kind of rough time, not your, rebellious whatever. Um, but th- I didn't want to
Mhm.
get rid of I mean, yeah, I wanted them out of my house when they were living here for 6 months, but I still enjoyed them when they were teenagers, and I enjoy them now that they're well, Jared's a young adult and Cameo's just an adult. When this drops, if this drops on the 18th, it's her birthday. She will be 30 on
Wow.
this day. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. When you have a kid that reaches 30, there's something about that.
Makes me feel so old.
There is something
My
about that.
word. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you what would you like what are some I mean this could be more than just Thanksgiving, like just holidays in general.
Well, I love
Um
Christmas.
well, I know, but we're going to do a whole thing on Christmas cuz you
I
love
know.
it so much. We have to do a whole thing and I do too. But But how do we navigate this as adult children? Like what are some do's and don'ts?
Oh, for heaven's sakes. I don't know.
Like we know.
don't know what the I don't know because I'm not in the same kind of situation because I'm still host if anybody's gonna host, it's me. Neither of my children have partners right now. So there's nothing it's, whatever. I cook and I say, come and eat. And what did I actually had for Canadian Thanksgiving, um, I didn't wanna do a turkey, even though we're vegan. I was gonna cook some sort of something. Like, it's Thanksgiving, you gotta have some sort of flesh to eat,
That's so gross.
some sort of fowl. I thought about doing little Cornish hens, which in the years and years and years ago, I made those. But I found these little chicken Kiev things. So
Hmm.
we had chicken flesh for
So
Thanksgiving and yummy mashed potatoes
so
with
Kim,
cream
you're not
cheese
in
and
this
real butter. It was
you're not
so
is
good.
you're so
So
you are not so far into this though. I mean, you're not as far into this personally, but you're married. You've gone through this on the other end of it, right?
um, like you mean I never hosted any like I didn't have my in-laws come. See, this is the problem. My mother doesn't do Thanksgiving. She's French Canadian. French
Okay.
Canadians don't do Thanksgiving. It's not a it's just a day off. It's not something that is a big deal for them. When I was little, I would go to my aunt's sometimes. for Thanksgiving, and she would do the turkey and all the things. Um, when I married Tim, we lived across the country, or we lived in a different country. So there were a couple of times when we celebrated Thanksgiving with them, but most of the time, I think when we were in Niagara Falls, we went once or twice and drove to the farm. I think. Yeah, because they were on the farm. I'm just trying to think, because my mother-in-law was a school teacher for the Adventist church. So yeah, they had the farm, but they lived in British Columbia, they lived in Alberta, they lived in New Brunswick, while still they rented the farm out. So we were in totally different worlds. And so I mean, I do remember a couple times and there was stuffing and there was turkey. And there was scalloped potatoes. My Aunt Penny makes scalloped potatoes and macaroni. And a couple times we went to my brother-in-law's for Thanksgiving when we lived in Ottawa. That's what we did. We went to my brother-in-law's. That's what we did.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you some of my
You give
suggestions.
me, because I don't
How's
know.
that? And then if you think I'm off my rocker, you can correct me. But number one thing that I would say is we have to be okay with things being very different and not expecting them to be the same. So don't go into this thinking it needs to look like, oh, well, you have to have this, or you have to have that, or we must have this,
Gotta have
or
green bean casserole, like seriously,
you
with
know,
French onions over top.
or that you have to make your thing. Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it can always just go into it with a blank
Open mind.
a blank slate and an
Yes.
open mind, willing to relish in what they are doing.
Yeah.
And no matter how different or how, because especially when you're going to your daughter-in-law's home,
Yeah.
a lot of her family traditions
Traditions,
come
yeah.
into play, and it's
Yeah.
different from yours. Just like if you and I compare Thanksgivings, I mean, yes,
We're
you're
very
Canadian,
different.
I'm American, but still they're very, very different. And our life experiences are different and all of that. And so, but but when you're willing to let go of what it has to be, um,
Mhm.
then it can be, you can have glorious new experiences you never
Mhm.
expected. It might not feel like your normal Thanksgiving, but that's
Mhm.
okay. Like it can next year if you really wanted to.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just, going in with an open mind and don't have like any set expectations of what things will be. Remember, and then this is another one. Remember that it's really about being together as a family
Yeah. And being
and
thankful.
being thankful.
Right. Let's be thankful.
So, if those are the two most important things, then anything that builds those two things
Mhm.
should be,
Mhm.
like that should be what's important.
Mhm. For sure.
Um, uh, so yeah, that right off the bat. The other thing is I would suggest you offer to do whatever, but don't necessarily say, "Don't you want me to?" Or "I
Oh,
could." You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like let your kids or whoever is hosting kind of set the, you know, bring up what they would like you to
Yeah.
do, if
Yeah, and
anything.
offering is a good thing to do.
Yeah,
Like, what could I bring? How can I help?
I can do anything or nothing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I can do anything or nothing.
Mhm. Um, yeah. I would also say maybe don't overstay your welcome.
Have you ever had have someone overstay their welcome, Beth Grissom? I cannot
No, because
imagine. That's what I was thinking.
there's no such thing for me. I'm happy for you to come, and if you, well, I mean, maybe there is after a while, yeah. But Like at an event or something like that? No. Or a weekend? No.
That's what I was thinking.
No. But I do think you just need to be
So how do you know if you've
um,
overstayed your welcome? How do you know when it's time to go?
if you know it's time to go, you've overstayed your welcome.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do that, but I just, just be I guess be sensitive to the fact that though you are part of the family, you are also not part of the immediate family. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
all of us at times feel like we need to just, we need to have our time. And especially like this, we're going over to my daughter-in-law's house and she has her whole family there. And
Yeah.
we're going to be so excited to be there with them and I'm so honored that she invited us and this is going to be it's going to be such a glorious time. We adore her family and so, it's going to be a really nice time, but I also want to be understanding that time with just her family is also important,
Yeah.
you know? Anyway.
Yeah. And the dynamics are different. Like what I have noticed is when it's a mother and a daughter, they're very in it's like things it's just easier. It's just
Yeah,
easier.
yeah,
And that's not bad, that's not good, that there's no judgment there. It's just easier when it's the mother-daughter team as
yeah.
opposed to the
And listen,
mother-son.
I adore my daughter-in-law. Like, I
Of course you
am
do.
so
Right,
thankful
there's
for
right.
her, and
Yes.
she is an amazing person,
Yeah.
and, we get along very well, but there's always room for learning each other, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
and but also, I guess where I think it's important is to just just try to be sensitive to how
Mhm.
you would have felt or how, like
Mhm.
anyway,
Mhm.
yeah. Of course, I love having my mother-in-law around. I never did not want my mother-in-law around.
Mm, that's
So,
cool.
yeah, she's great. I hope she comes Christmas. We'll see.
Oh,
Anyway,
yay.
uh, um, another thing is along the lines of just being thankful,
Mhm.
um, you know, be affirming. I
Mm.
know that seems like just such a duh statement,
Mhm.
but listen, I've known a lot of mother-in-laws who can be extremely, um or mothers, doesn't have to be mother-in-laws, but
Mhm.
just parents, let's say that, it could even be fathers, but parents who are critical
Mhm.
of kids' attempts at things or
Mhm.
like to make jokes about things that didn't turn out very well or, that and I just there's no place for that. Like, be kind, be nice, be hospitable, um, affirm them in what they're doing.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. I was just thinking about how recently I saw somebody ask on social media if there was one rule you could make, what would it be? And I was like, just be kind. Like if there was one rule I could make that the whole world would have to follow, that would be
Mm,
it. Just be kind. There's no need to be anything but kind. We don't
yeah.
need to be critical. How is that helpful? And sorry. Then the therapist in me is like, if you're being critical, what's going on inside of you? What are you
Well,
what
there it can be you're right, and there can be all kinds of things,
Sure.
all kinds of things. But probably one that's just really obvious is we're not taking the transition very well.
Right.
Or we wish
Right.
it was at our house. Or,
Right.
we there are some parents who still need to feel like they're most important to their child, right?
Yeah.
Like that is still, and it they have their own family, and
Mhm.
that's really
And
important
that's the way
to honor.
it's supposed to be that way.
Yes.
The scripture says leave and cleave. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be that way. You're supposed to leave your parents
I
and
got
cleave.
hair just
I have one here too, so it's
hanging
like
out on its
just put this down between my nose. Of course, people who are just listening to us are like, "You all are so weird." And
Yeah,
then this
well,
is
we
not
are.
well, this is true, and I don't know which way to
Anyway,
Oh my
um, another
gosh.
thing. So I got this from, I know the old tradition of, take a hostess gift or whatever. I think that's great advice. Take a little
Mhm,
gift to
mhm,
your daughter, or your daughter-in-law, or your son,
mhm,
or your son-in-law.
mhm.
Um, but and since the summer, going
Yes.
and being part of the learning about my Hawaiian culture, in Hawaii, they don't ever go to someone's house without bringing something that's living or life-giving.
Mhm,
So, like, of living, like a plant, or,
mhm,
something that's growing and alive, or like fruit, or,
mm.
something that is life-giving. But, like, let's be real, chocolates can be life-giving on some level, so it doesn't have to just be bananas. Um, so
Chocolate is so life-giving for sure,
for some
100%.
people.
That's
Anyway,
hilarious.
but, coming up with something, that, and I would, don't make it about the gift, like,
Mm,
like, it's not a big deal. It just is a small something, but
mhm,
it can be something, that
mhm,
you do for your
mhm.
daughter, or daughter-in-law, son, or son-in-law. So,
It's really awkward being on the receiving end for me, let me rephrase that. I have had people come who are I can't say it I'm gonna say Samoan, but that's not how you're supposed to say it properly.
okay.
Samao anyway, you pronounce all the vowels,
I'm
and
some
I
of that too, by the way.
I apologize for butchering that word. I'll have to watch their lips and try to practice. Anyway, when she comes to my home, she
Uh-huh.
always brings some and it's like the it's just not something I'm used to. Like, I mean, flowers, sure, but, like, she brought me 2 orchids once, or she'll bring a big a pineapple or something. It's like, "Wha I that's just it's something I'm not so being on the receiving of end of that, if that's not something that is cultural to you. I love the idea,
Right.
and I've since I heard you say it, I'm kind of adopting it because I think that's just the coolest thing,
Mhm.
to bring something living or life-giving. So,
Mm.
but being on the receiving of end of that is just weird. Like, it feels weird to me.
Yeah. It's no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I think maybe, I hmm, many times receiving is awkward,
Well, that's true.
and I think for many of us, receive, especially when we are in the mode of serving them,
Mm. Mhm.
because you've prepared for them, you're
Mhm.
excited about, them coming, whatever, then receiving something. I have a very good friend of mine, Amy King, who is, uh, the quintessential Southern hostess, who is
Mm.
just amazing at being a
Mhm.
hostess,
Mhm.
but she also is just amazing at gift giving. It is one of her many spiritual gifts, and, she will never show, I mean, when she shows up, she's gonna bring something, but I have to tell you, there's so many times I forget about it, right? And then she walks in and just has something lovely, and
Mm.
it's always timely, and it's always so thoughtfully done and so beautifully done in how she presents it and all of it. And I get it. I know what you're speaking of, because I always feel kind of awkward in those moments. But I have to say, I'm trying really hard to just really embrace it, and
Mm.
not go down the path, "Well, the last time I was at your house, I forgot to do something, and
Mm,
so,
mm,
you
mhm.
shouldn't have done this for me," or, "Wow, I could have
It
never
can't
come up with anything." You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, a lot of
no
times for
no
me, I go down the
comparison.
comparison
Yeah,
thing.
and it can't be any
Um
quid pro quo, like,
Mm-mm,
it can't be that way. If it's that way,
mm-mm.
then it loses all of the joy and the beauty of it.
Yeah,
So on the receiving end of it, you just receive it and
that's right.
say thank you and realize that it's coming from a place of love and and generosity, and there's nothing owed back. And if you feel like you owe them back, then you go see a therapist, because
Yeah.
that's about you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're in a relationship where they think you should owe them back, then that's about them, and you got to leave that on their table. You still don't give into that. You just
That's
do
right. No,
it
that's
because
right.
it's a loving act to do. If it's,
That's
yeah,
right.
just receive it. Just
That's
receive
right.
it.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say is to all the parents out there with grown children, when you forgive how this sounds, it's gonna sound weird, but remember you're not the parent.
Oh my word, that's so hard to do. I still can't. I still have a hard time doing.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Like, you're not the parent in that, you are there to sort of take their lead for sure.
Yeah.
You are there in their home as
Yeah.
their guest, and you're not in charge, and you're not the one directing things, and you're not the one, you are there to enjoy them. And so, yeah, you're not the parent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that way with your grandchildren and with, your and I think it's so important because especially when you're talking about grandchildren and all of that. Listen, God, they are gifted or entrusted to your children as their parents. They are the parents. You are
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that that is a really an important and kind of I mean, I say this. I know that this sometimes like I had someone once say to me, "Well, yeah, but your kids are doing a great job parenting."
Mm.
Yes. And if there's abuse going on or if
Mm-hmm.
it's you know what I'm saying, if it's something that needs intervention,
Mm-hmm.
but man, be careful
Mm-hmm.
because they're not your children, they're your grandchildren, and that's a very different
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Of course, I'd
Mm-hmm.
also say to kids, let your parents be grandparents.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
But but
What does that look like? What do you mean by that?
mm, let me be very clear. I haven't had this with my children. This is only something I've observed. So I don't want my kids going, "Oh, Mom, what are you talking about?"
Okay. Yeah.
But I have observed this in other situations where um, kids are always trying to like wanting the grandparent to act as a parent.
Mm.
In other words, to be just like they are in interacting with the children. I really believe children need both. They
Oh,
need
for
parents
sure
and they
they
need
do.
grandparents,
Yeah.
and parents and grandparents are not the same thing,
Right.
and they don't
Exactly.
treat the children the same way.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't mean that as parents, we don't honor parents' wishes. Like, you
Right.
really need to be willing to do that
Right.
and don't minimize what
Right.
child is asking you to do. Really interesting, story about this with my children. I don't think I've shared this story, I hope I haven't, but I went down to Chattanooga and I was, um, gonna be watching Emma for the first time while my kids they went out on a date,
Mhm.
and my daughter left me a very detailed schedule,
Mhm.
and I mean, very detailed schedule,
Mhm.
and, my first reaction, like, my first sort of gut quick response reaction internally was to think, I mean,
Yes.
she's only, like, 6 months old, I've done this a few times,
Uh-huh.
you're alive and well and a mother now, I think I can handle her for 3 hours while you go out to eat.
That's funny.
Um, but I really believe that we have to honor, like, the
Yeah.
parents, right? So as soon as Sarah left, got out that sheet of paper and I started looking and going down this sheet of paper.
Mhm.
And Kim, it was the most beautiful thing
Mm.
because the way Sarah had written it out was she said, between this and this time, Emma will be X, Y, and Z. Either
Oh,
what she would be doing or or yeah, like what she was doing or
interesting.
how she might be acting and what that was saying. Like, in other words, that means she
Wow.
is this.
Wow.
So between this and this time, you could start doing this because then by such and such a time, she's going to be doing this, which means she needs to be fed or she needs to be whatever, whatever. And
Wow.
if she does this, she may need to be changed, da, da, da. And then by this time, she's usually blah, 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 blah. So why don't you? So that's when you do X, Y, and Z for her whole bedtime routine. And can I tell you,
That's
the
amazing.
whole entire evening, every single thing she said, it was like clockwork. Emma, exactly like on the dot, started doing exactly what Sarah had written down, said she would do. I knew exactly what that meant I needed to do. I did it. And Emma was asleep at the perfect, like the time that Sarah said. And, everything was like, there was no,
That's
it was
incredible.
glorious.
Wow.
And if I, as a mother, had let that, oh, please, I know what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Right, right.
Win?
Yeah.
Number 1, I wouldn't have got to see the beauty of Sarah's knowledge and understanding of her own
Mhm.
child, right? And
Mhm.
how beautifully she's in tune to the needs of her daughter
Mhm.
and but also how well she communicated that in the list and then watching Emma and how she responded to everything. I mean, it was just beautiful and it was stress-free. It
Mm.
was wonderful. And so when our kids are asking us for certain things, it's not always about them trying to, you know, tell us what to do per se, but just telling us what to do. So just do it.
And even if they are telling you what to
Just do
do
it.
it because it's their child and they get to make the rules.
And all if you question it, all I want you to do is think about if you question it, think about the times when you were a young parent and your
Right.
parents didn't do what you were asking
Right.
them to do.
Exactly.
So anyway, but yeah,
Exactly.
just yeah, there you go. Those are my thoughts about
Those are your thoughts. They're wonderful.
how to go
Be
to
adaptable.
Thanksgiving at your
S
kid's house. We'll
Be
see how it goes.
adaptable.
Maybe I'll
Yeah.
have to
Be be adaptable, be gracious. Um, yeah, basically.
offer what
S
you can do.
Yeah,
Don't take over.
don't take over. Yeah.
Most importantly, I think if I have to just, like, encapsulate it all into one thing, I challenge you to, um, enjoy
Mm,
watching your
mm.
children
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
how they do things and how they do
Yeah,
things differently and enjoy the different.
yeah,
Don't be stuck.
for sure. That's
Because if you're
true.
stuck, it just shows you're old.
Isn't
Sorry.
that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
And even if you are old, you don't have to act it,
You
as my
don't have
grandmother
to.
would say.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Mhm.
You can go ziplining like my mother.
There you go. I love that
Can
so
you
much.
imagine? My word,
No.
77 years old ziplining. Yeah, that's one thing my mother does very well is she just is so adaptable. Like she whatever situation she is in, she's very go with the flow. She's really, really good at that. She's not
That's
a have to do it my way
yeah,
kind of person. Yeah. She taught me that. Be
that's
adaptable. She would
great.
say that a lot. Just be adaptable, be flexible. It's important to be
Mhm,
flexible.
mhm.
Yeah.
It is. Some of my we're talking just general Thanksgiving, you know, things being different. A couple years ago, I think we talked about it on here, but uh, all of our kids were going other places.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
were like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
"How do we do Thanksgiving?" So we went to New York, we spent it with my brother, and
Oh, yeah, I
we
remember
went and
that.
did the Macy's Day Parade and all of
Yeah.
that stuff, and my brother invited some of his friends over, and it was I mean, we had, like, Beets Wellington that he had
Oh,
made. It was like beef, but made with beets and all kinds of
I've
things,
made that recipe.
and anyway, and then he had a bunch of other really fancy things, and it was nothing like, there was not one thing in that meal that was, like, traditional,
Yeah,
Thanksgiving. And I'm a traditionalist. I love you know, the flavors, but
yes,
man, I just kept going with it, nope, this is all about just enjoying my
that's
brother
it.
and his home,
Yeah, right.
and man, it was absolutely beautiful, and we had the best time,
Mm,
and in fact, we left there saying, "All right, Peter, anytime that we don't have, like,
mhm.
family, we're coming, we're gonna we're gonna make this a new tradition because it was so good." But,
Did
um
you say Pierre?
Peter.
In my ear. I was like, "Her brother's name's Peter. Did she just call him Pierre just because he made beet Wellington?"
No, Peter. Probably said it way too fast.
Sorry,
Mhm.
sorry. You can
Anyway.
call him Pierre. It's the same name.
So, yep. So enjoy the different.
Yeah.
But I think I just saw somebody on, TikTok,
Yeah.
telling on myself, who, lost her son this year, and she was talking
Mm,
about the grief associated with the holidays and how she just
mhm,
is, just seeing everything in the stores. She was just
mhm,
heartbroken and really struggling, and every holiday, those kind of
mhm,
things become much more
mhm,
challenging for everyone. Um, and I think really having embracing sort of along with the grief, I'm not trying to say not to embrace the grief, Kim, but but along with that and just feeling the feels, also just, um, looking at how things can be different,
mhm,
you know, and what that different is going like being okay with things being a little bit different,
mhm.
um, because there's always changes every year. It's never
Everything.
the
Yeah,
same.
it's never the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure,
So,
for sure.
anyway, all right.
I guess that about sums it up.
In the last 24 hours,
Yes, ma'am.
I know what I'm gonna say. So what are you gonna say?
Oh,
In the last 24 hours, what's something that's brought you joy, laughter, or smile? I have to say it in case people haven't
sorry.
heard.
Cameo's dog, just Cameo and her puppy just got here. They spend every Monday with me. It's really, really fun.
Oh.
So if you're hearing barking, that's what you're hearing. Well, we yesterday we were working on our living room because we have this built-in shelf that Tim made,
Mhm.
and we were doing while I was gone at my mom's, and then when Tim came back, he did a bunch of sanding, and then he did some paint. He painted the walls because we have like these ceilings that go forever. So he paints because I can't even reach up there. It's so
Right.
high. So he painted all that. So yesterday I painted this built-in bookshelf that he made me, and that just brought me so much joy. And he put the television up above it. So now anyway, we're making progress in our house and making it more like we want it. And Tim is out there. We took up flooring. It was just great because it's like, okay, we're making progress. This is gonna is it's more and more becoming what we envision it to be. And that is
That's awesome.
always joyful. Yeah.
All right, well, I told you I knew what mine was. It's almost identical to yours, which is
Oh.
so funny. Um, so I've been trying to figure out what to do in my dining room for a
Uh-huh.
light.
Oh,
I really don't like the light that the single gentleman had chosen for the dining room.
okay.
It's not a formal dining room, it's the main eating area, right,
Sure,
for the whole
sure.
house,
Yeah.
for the whole anyway, that's the only place to eat. So, excuse me. Anyway, so I was trying to find a light, and I've searched and searched and searched, but, I have really good taste, I have discovered, and I just couldn't find anything that was even within the realm of reasonable. Like,
Uh-huh.
I just didn't like it. So, anyway, I finally found something. We also have a staircase that, has huge ceilings in it. It's not part of the main living area. It's kind of off to the side, but still it's where our guests go up to the guest room. And
Mhm.
when they walk up these stairs, it's a really wide staircase and like really, really, really high ceilings open all the way to the top. It's just beautiful. And then he has his little ceiling light at the
Oh,
top.
dear.
Like it just screams for this is a place for a lighting moment, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
anyway, I had gone and found a light that had 6 hanging fixtures. I mean, 7 hanging fixtures. And
Mm.
you could do any kind of globe, obviously, that
Mm,
you
mm.
want on that. And I thought, well, that'll be great in the hallway, um, in the staircase. And I had planned to do baskets because I have some pictures from Hawaii there, and I thought that would just be kinda neat. And it's kinda
Mhm,
thing right now to do the baskets. But so I bought some,
mhm.
but that's gonna require an electrician to help us get it up there because it's so high. We don't even have a ladder or anything that can us up there. Um, and so in the meantime, trying to find something for the dining room, I saw something I really liked,
Mm.
and it was only $15,000.
Holy cow. There is nothing wrong with your taste.
Nothing wrong with my taste, but I looked at
Wow.
that and thought, "You know what? It's not too dissimilar
Hmm.
to that light that I gotten for the staircase, except that they have hand-blown glass
Mm.
globes on it, which obviously that's out of my reach." So but I thought I could get the glass globes, and then maybe I
Mm.
could do something to them to make them more of what I had in mind.
There you go.
So, to make a very long story not any longer than I've already made it, I ended up using gold leaf and gold leafing glass globes that were going to hang over 7 glass globes. They're gonna hang over the dining room
Whoa.
table. And I've been working on those for the last week and a half occasionally and had gotten them done, but to hang it is quite an ordeal trying to figure it all out and
Mhm,
anyway,
mhm.
and so Chris and I did that last night.
Oh, yay.
So,
Yeah, you'll have to show pictures.
I will
We
later.
can see it. Yeah,
I will
definitely.
later when I get, when I really have the thing done. Because right now it's up, but the table's still not back in place, and I bought a
We
travertine table, so it's extremely heavy, so
Oh,
Chris and I can't put it back. We have to have a man do it.
wow. That's something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But in any event, it was so exciting to see it up there. It's
That's
also a
so
little
cool.
nerve-wracking because, whenever it's your, art, and
Yeah,
it's definitely an art project,
yeah,
um, you can be I can be
yeah,
critical of it
yeah.
anyway. So I'm gonna do a tweaking and adjusting today, but yeah, it was exciting to see it and see that, no, I wasn't crazy, it'll work, and
That's so neat.
it's not anything like the $15,000 one, don't misunderstand. That one was just the inspiration for this one,
That's
so
hilarious. $15,000. Who My goodness.
I
That's
know,
crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
Well, it was beautiful, though,
Yeah, it
and I
better
gotta
be
hand
for
it to the artisans that
$15,000.
blow all those things,
Good
I
grief.
understand, but anyway, so
Okay.
that's it.
Well, everybody have a lovely Thanksgiving.
Enjoy your family, be thankful, there's a lot of joy in that.
Yeah. Be flexible, be kind, be generous.
Let go. All right, so you're not gonna celebrate Thanksgiving, Kim?
I don't know what we'll do. It's still too I don't know what we'll do.
Okay.
We haven't got Tim's birthday is just before it, and then Cameo's birthday is just before it. So,
So you're gonna be celebrating birthdays.
yeah, that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enjoy and, yeah, have a happy, joy-filled Thanksgiving, everybody. Make sure you, make sure you have a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Make sure you eat too much.
There you
How's
go.
that?
And watch
That'll
too
be
much
easy.
football.
Everyone will do it. All
Right.
right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We would really love to hear from you. So please find us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Joy in the Weeds. You can also email us. Our email address is joy@carolinasda.org. That's joy@carolinasda.org. Now, we hope that today, as you navigate the weeds, you will also hold on to moments of joy.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.